If you're having problems unlocking and locking your Ridgeline with your key fob, even though your battery is new and the key is programmed to the car, then this video is for you.
Seriously, I just had it.
A couple of weeks ago, I noticed that I was having problems with unlocking and locking my Ridgeline, but the key would still work. And the problem is actually, it's not the batteries. I know that that's good. I know that the key's programmed to the truck. The key itself works. And as soon as I unlock it physically, then I can use my key fob to unlock the doors and lock the doors. But I have to either lock the door or unlock the door in order to do either one. After running a few tests, I figured out that it was actually my door lock actuator, which was bad. So whenever I physically push down on the lock and this switch moves, it will either unlock or lock the rest of the doors or allow the other doors to be unlocked or locked. So I was basically flipping this switch physically with the key linkage, and then I was able to use my fob. But if this actuator goes bad, then it won't allow your key to unlock your driver's door on the first click, and therefore you won't be able to unlock the rest of the doors using your fob. So I'm going to walk you through how to replace this guy today. As you can see, I already have the door card removed. In order to remove the door card, there are a few things that you'll need to do. The first thing that you want to do is pull the door handle back, and then on the bottom side there's a little spot where you can get a small flathead screwdriver or a pick tool in order to pry this trim piece out. It does pull out from the bottom and down. And then you'll notice it has a couple of screws in here that hold this door handle to it. Now you'll gently pull it out, and on the top side there will be linkage connected right here. You just flip this back and the linkage pulls out at a 90, and then you can set this aside. Then you've got a couple of bolts here that you'll pull out of the door card. Next, you'll pull this little piece out, and then there's a screw right down in here, and you'll pull that out. The next thing you'll do is from the bottom side, you'll gently pull out. On the back side of the door card, there are several of these plastic tabs. You want to be gentle because they do tend to break, but you'll pull this away from the door itself, and then you'll lift up and over the lock assembly. Of course, you'll have to remove this little piece of plastic trim first. It comes off from the top and hooks in on the bottom. After that, you can lift the door card up and access your wiring. You should have about 4 clips in there, and you'll remove that. I already have this removed from here. That's not necessary for replacing the door lock actuator. I just have that out so that I could test and diagnose and figure out what was actually going on. The next thing that you want to do is gently pull this back. You can see you want to be a little careful with it. I accidentally tore mine here, and that'll give you access to the door locking mechanism here, here, and here. There are 3 screws right here that you'll need to remove, and 1 here that holds this on. And then these guys you can just push in. They're just little plastic clips, and you can pull those right out. For these ones here, you want to make sure that you're using the right size screwdriver because they are in there kind of tight. If you have an impact driver, you might need to use them on there, but they're pretty easy to strip out, so just be careful with these 3 right here. Now that I have these 2 cables disconnected and the bolts out here, the actual mechanism is loose in there, and you'll need it to be a little bit loose just so that you can work those clips off. The first thing I did is I reached in and I looked at the door handle linkage, and where it drops down, you disconnect that first. You'll pull a little plastic tab around, and then you'll pull a 90-degree linkage out of the mechanism. And the next one that you need to do is the door lock. And I found it easiest to reach in right through here to undo the clip. And then you can disconnect it, unplug the wires, and then the whole assembly rotates out this way, and you can pull it right out of this area. The assembly should look like that. Now that we have the assembly out, I'm just going to show you these clips from the inside. This would be the outside of the door, and this would be facing the inside of the door. These clips right here, and these linkages, they just fit in at a 90, and then this clip just slides over top of them like that to lock them in. So as it sits in the door, you kind of need to reach around the window rail, push this guy that way, and then the linkage just lifts right out. And the same goes for the door lock assembly, which you can kind of see if you peek through where the gap in the latch assembly is. This is the actuator we're going to be replacing. It's protected by a shroud, plastic shroud that goes over top. So you'll need to remove that shroud in order to get the actuator off of the assembly. To remove it, there's 1 Phillips head screw here and then there are clips on either side that you'll be able to see. And then this little piece right here, you'll need to get a pry tool up in there in order to wiggle this off. This was kind of tight for me. This shroud doesn't actually come off. You'll just slide it out of your way so that you can gain access to this mounting screw and this clip right here. Once you get your screw and your clip undone, this just pulls straight back from the assembly, just like that. Get out your replacement. You'll want to make sure that this tab right here goes into this socket whenever you're putting it back together. Now that we have our cable reconnected and the clipped in, and this screw here, and confirming that this linkage is in that socket right there, we're ready to reassemble. So all we have to do is slide our cover back down over top, and then we'll be ready to reinstall this. Don't forget your screw. When you go to put this back in the door, this linkage will be kind of flopping around, and it is delicate plastic in through there. So you want to hold this up and hold your cables back and out of the way once you get it in there. And the window rail actually runs right along here. So you need to get it in there, get it around that window rail, and rotate it in. And then you'll be able to put your linkages back together and clip those back in and put everything back together. Now that everything's mounted back in, and I've got my clips in, and make sure your wires are connected, you want to put this back and reattach it. I'm actually going to just use some tape along here just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere and I can get a good seal the whole way around the door card. We're ready to get the door card back on. If you're missing any of the plastic tabs and they're stuck in the door, you'll want to remove those and reinsert them. Get your 4 electrical connectors plugged in along here. And as you put this lip over top of this metal portion here, you'll guide this in, and you also want to make sure that your cable makes its way through this metal bracket here so that you can get to the door latch. Now everything's clipped in. We're going to put our screw in here and these 3 bolts here, and then we'll reconnect the door handle linkage. To reinstall the door handle, you'll make sure that this green clip goes into this U right here, and then put the end of the cable in through this mounting tab, and then lock it back into place. And then this will just situate right back in there, and you can take your 2 little screws and put them back together, and then put the plastics on. Now that we have our 2 bolts back in, take your trim piece, put it up through the top first, and click it into place. Take your triangular piece, get these 2 into the slot, and then it clips in. And then take your little tray and put it back in as well. And you're all done. All right, moment of truth. Hey, it works. Perfect. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you got something out of today's video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.